Hi, hi. Hi, 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 hi. I never know when we're live or we're not live. I think we're live. Um, just waiting for. Hey, Ellie. There she is. The main star attraction of our chat tonight has just entered stage left. Hang on, I need to find her. Where have you gone? Where have you gone? There you are. Suspense. The suspense is killing me. Where is she? Yeah,
Hello.
there she is.
How are you, gorgeous?
Hi. How are you?
You know, do you want to be real about it?
Do you know what? We're on an Insta live chat, and I'm sat on a like really shitty sofa in my house and haven't been out for however long. So it's got real. Just give me the real.
Yeah. I mean, I'm coming straight from Brooklyn, so I got to keep it real, right? Um, Things are crazy. We are we are in week, I don't even know what, of the quarantine, right?
Yeah.
And we have no leadership over here.
To be honest, I don't think we have much here either at the moment.
I know we're kind of the UK and America. We're both kind of fucked.
It's gone. Do you know what? It's gone full on Team America. You know the film. You know when you get that came out and when you watch it and you think yalla 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 la la la, you know all the puppets and you think that's just crazy pretend, and
That's
then
crazy talk. That's
suddenly in the
never
past couple of
happened.
years you're like, is it?
Well, there's also that movie, Idiocracy. Have you ever seen
No,
that?
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it though.
Okay, well, I hate to tell you, but we are deep in that right in this moment. Like, we are deep in the Idiocracy. Yeah.
Yeah. How weird is it though that last time I saw you, we were sat in Brooklyn in a bar hosting
Mhm.
a panel on sex and basically having a few drinks going, I think this
What's
shit's
gonna
about to
happen?
get really weird.
Yeah,
Huh?
and Dr. Jess was planning her big birthday trip to Italy and was like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to
Yeah,
go. Like, this was before we knew how hard it was even hitting Italy. So
yeah. That
yeah,
was the first week of March, wasn't it? It's
yeah,
really
it was
weird.
wild.
It's like some weird time warp because we were in northern Italy doing a KK event literally 10 days before that as well. So we're in
I
Venice
mean,
when that got shut down. Then we came to New York, and as that was being shut down, and you just think it's as if we've sort of the world has stood still since I last saw you. But
well, that's usually the effect I have on people.
anyway, enough about all that bollocks.
You know,
Don't-
global pandemic or not, you
let's
know.
talk. Let's talk about sex. It's way more
Yeah, let's talk
interesting.
about some fucking. Yeah.
So Domina Franco, whoever doesn't know, who's joining us now, massive sex educator in New York, an all-round legend, and you've been doing it for 20 years.
Mhm.
Masters in sexuality. I mean, literally, there is nothing about sex you do not know. Total. But let's
Oh, I
start.
wouldn't say
You were.
that. I mean, there's always going to be something that I don't totally know about. I know a lot, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
the
I
thing.
know
It
a
might
lot.
you might have some stuff from experience, but you know it.
I
But
do. I
right
do.
before that, semi professional wrestler. So let's start at the beginning before we go into the juicy stuff. How what?
How, what?
Here,
How, what,
how?
where? How do you? Yeah. I mean, that wasn't the beginning of like my foray into my interest in sex. I like the semi-pro wrestling was really just for fun. I actually was a phone sex operator in the late 90s in California. And I was technically a virgin. Virginity is a construct, by the way. It's not like
That's one of my
real.
questions later.
Um, but I was actually a virgin, quote unquote, when I got the job as a phone sex operator in San Diego. And then, yeah, I mean, I was always interested in the study of human sexuality my whole life, and then, you know, throughout my life being interested in that, and then becoming a semi-pro wrestler, was pretty interesting. I did that in the early 2000s, and I did that for 5 years, and also was a dominatrix at the time, and ended up actually merging the semi-pro wrestling that I had done, taking that and then teaching that to doms. So formatting a workshop, wrestling for domination, to teach dominatrix how to actually safely do wrestling sessions, especially if they were like, you know, paired with a client who,
Yeah.
you know, outweighed them, or, you know, how could they effectively use their bodies to the best of their abilities.
And
And
that's the whole safety thing. That's a big part of BDSM, isn't it? The heart, and in everything. So I can see how the wrestling, you know, that basically doing it so you don't end up beating the crap out of someone.
well, I mean, you want to beat the crap out of someone
Unless someone wants that.
to the level of their limits. I mean, you're talking to I'm a switch, but I'm very sadistic. So, you know,
What's a
uh,
switch? What's a switch?
oh, okay. So, well, in BDSM, you know, there's many different terms. You know, dominant, submissive, right? Or top, bottom. There is a difference between those things. And then there's switch, and a switch is essentially a person where they sort of play both sides.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I'm very dominant. I'm not submissive though. I'm bottom leaning. So that means I don't submit, but I like to play with impact play and stuff as a bottom. But
Yeah.
but yeah, you know, BDSM is a huge and
Yeah.
very varied subject. You know, I
Yeah.
could go on for like
We
18
could
minutes
sit there for
talking about
hours
that.
on that. But
Exactly.
on the let's go on day to day this week over here, and I don't know whether you've got it over there. I don't know if it's a global thing, the whole mental health week, awareness week. And we've done some quite a lot of stuff, and you know, about orgasms and how masturbating is really good for your mental health. And we're in isolation, and there's a lot of people, especially a lot of our single members, who have been in lockdown on their own. And I don't know if
Me,
you're seeing it with clients. You are.
I'm one
What
of
are you
them.
doing, lovely lady?
Oh, we broke up. Me and
Oh,
my girlfriend
what?
broke up. So I've been quarantining alone.
And
Yeah.
a lot of toys.
Well, luckily, as a sex educator, I have a house full of toys. So yeah, there's no reason to be bored in my house, even
Of
if I'm
course.
by myself.
Well, on that front, you'll know exactly. And so, what are like tips and advice for on that, on the, you know, and also the sort of science that you know on masturbating, and why it is, you know, why it is good for you, and why it is good for your mental health, and why everyone just needs to get out there and play. And
Yeah.
yeah, so what are your thoughts on that, especially in lockdown now? Is it a time to self-explore and find out what makes you tick if you are on your own?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, I think that it's a time for that anytime, but
Yeah.
specifically now, I mean, what the fuck else are you gonna be doing? You know what I mean? Like literally go fuck yourself right now. You know what I mean?
That's the
Go
slogan,
fuck
isn't it?
yourself
Go fuck
Saturday
yourself.
through Sunday right now, because you know what else is there to do? And you know what? You can feel really good about it because you're keeping your fellow humans safe by staying in the house and just diddling with
And just
yourself.
fucking yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, well, of course, there's a lot of science behind it, you know, and I could get really nerdy with you and talk about all the scientific stuff. We know, you know, chemicals get released, oxytocin gets released during, you know, orgasm, and even up and towards it, you know, as obviously there's different patterns of orgasm for folks of different genders.
Yeah.
But you know, it's something that it relaxes the muscles. When I have a headache, I masturbate. I mean, like literally,
Struggling
there's
to
no reason
sleep.
not to do it. Yeah, exactly. To go to sleep. And I feel like, especially with mental health, it's also literally just staying connected to your body. Quite literally staying connected to your physical body, but also I've heard so many people, and myself included, have been suffering with sleep a lot, with not being able to get to sleep. Um,
And weird dreams, isn't it? Lots of people are having really weird anxiety dreams and stuff.
so many anxiety dreams. And so many friends have been sharing that they've been experiencing that too. Yeah. But I think the thing is too, is like, if you're going to do it right now, like, look, many of us, I won't say all of us, because also there's asexual folks who aren't interested in masturbating, and that's okay too. But for the folks of us who are hornbags and are
And have got
wanting
the
to,
toys and toys and toys.
are complete perverts, hornbags, and want to masturbate, you know, I say, please go forth and do so. But, you know, enjoy yourself. That's the whole point, right? But find new ways. I mean, you know, for those of us who do masturbate, a lot of us already know kind of how to get ourselves there pretty quick, right? Whether we use toys or we don't, whether we use, you know, whether we use pornography as inspiration or for fun, you know, there's no reason not to try different ways of masturbating and self-pleasure. And also, here's a tip. Draw that shit out. Like, don't rush it. Why would you rush it? Right? Like,
Yeah, especially
draw
now.
it out.
Where are you going?
Yeah, where the fuck are you rushing off to, right? What are you gonna do? Go walk to your fridge again, right? Like, go watch Netflix one more time. So, you know, yeah, try different things. You know, maybe if you've always wanted to try anal play, but you've been kind of afraid to, you know, maybe try a little bit of that, right? Especially if maybe you don't have the courage yet to say that you want to do that with a partner yet, and you're single and you're home, but you want to get accustomed to what that might feel like. Why not do that with yourself, right? Make sure everything you ever put near your butt has a flared base. This is like, I will say this every single time I talk about anal sex.
Has a what?
A flared base.
Okay, got you.
Yes, because the butt it just wants to suck everything up. It's
And you'll
like
be
a codependent partner. Like, I love you, I want you, I need you. The butt.
And you'll be straight in A&E with a mask on, going, go. Don't get. How did you get COVID? Well,
I actually didn't have COVID. I just put something up my butt
and ended up in A&E. Yeah.
That would be like not the way to say that you got COVID, was because like you stuck something up your butt that didn't have a flared base. So also, by the way, the flared bases, but also always lube. I literally was just talking about this yesterday. But yeah, I mean, why not try blended orgasms by mixing, you know, stimulation of your penis and your anus, right? Or of different parts of your vulva or vagina and your anus, right? And I will specifically speak in terms like that because I don't want to use gendered language as if it's just like a binary, like men, women. We know that there's lots of gender. But yeah, I mean, like, mix it up. Also, it's kind of funny. I know, of course, I'm part of the Women of Sex Tech. And which, of course, you know, Polly Rodriguez.
I'm down.
Fantastic women who are on that. There's been a big spike in online sales of sex toys, and
huge. There has over here, like massive spike.
Yeah. So I mean, and it's, you know, not to try to negate or put down the absolute huge tragedy that is the global pandemic of COVID-19, because we know it is a huge tragedy. But yeah, sex toy manufacturers are making out like bandits, and like, hey, so they should. Like, and there's so many fantastic toys to play with, you know. I mean, there's something literally for everyone.
Yeah, what advice on that? If because a lot of people, like we're doing these like virtual parties and workshops, and we're getting a lot of sort of newcomers or new people into the KK world, or people that have been there but they've never been brave enough to come to an offline event, and they've gone, they just want to, they're at home and they've gone sod it, and
It's
so we get,
safe,
yeah,
right?
it's safe, and there's, you know, and a lot of them, and also they're saying that they've started for the first time actually communicating with their other half, because, you know, they can't ignore them and just run to work and run and do that. They're actually sat there going, well, you can't go anywhere, I can't go anywhere. So,
Right.
so for people sort of now, so for the first time, really, a lot of people are actually really thinking about their sex lives and thinking about, well, what makes me tick?
Yeah.
What would be your sort of advice and tips for people just sort of coming into that self-awareness, basically, when it comes to the sexuality and sex life? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first of all, I mean, I just want to say too, I think, you know how we were talking about COVID creating like insomnia and nightmares and stuff like that? Just to normalize this too, a lot of people are having huge drops in their libido.
Yeah.
So during this time too. So I just, because to me, it's very heartfelt. Like if, you know, if you're experiencing a drop in libido, it doesn't necessarily mean that's permanent. It doesn't necessarily mean there's anything wrong with you. Maybe your body is just stressed. And also, like, hello, global fucking pandemic, right? So, like maybe you're
Yeah, and
not feeling
people go two ways, don't they? You either go into drop, don't touch me, or I need you and I need that. Yeah, which
right.
must
They
be
have the
tricky if
skin
people have a,
hunger.
yeah, if people
Yeah.
have a different, if you're the opposing sides within a relationship.
And
Yeah.
that can be really tough. Like if you are in a partnership and you're quarantining with somebody and your libido or their libido is really low and the other partner's libido is really high, that can be, well, that's a perfect opportunity to continue exploring your masturbation for the person who has the higher libido in
Yeah.
that scenario, right? Um, but yeah, I mean, we're quarantined with partners potentially. Um, someone noted that the day that China was reopening, that there was a massive spike in the registrations for divorce.
I think
And
we're going to get it here.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so babies and divorce, right? Like
Yeah,
that's what's
there's no
really
middle
happening.
ground. I've said that. There's no grey area. It's literally, it's one way or the other.
Yeah. And so but yeah, if you're quarantining with your partner, I mean, yeah, what better time? What are you going to do? Bake some sourdough bread? Bake another loaf of bread?
No, I
Like,
tried that. It failed miserably.
yeah, you know, I mean, like, you might as well be like, share some fantasies that you've had that maybe you want to try out. And, you know, sure, maybe you're a little limited at this point. You can't necessarily go out to a store and buy certain toys, right? Like right away,
Yeah.
right? You know, but there's things around the house. You don't need handcuffs if you have scarves. And
Yeah. Hmm.
and you know what? You can maybe even institute the masks and like make that part of your play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when you put the mask on, I'm in charge, right? Like when you
Yeah.
have your mouth covered, I'm in charge. Or,
Nice.
you know, whatever games, sorry, one second. Whatever games feel good, you know, I think whatever we can do to sort of give ourselves a laugh and like enjoy ourselves at this point, I think that's of utmost
Yeah,
importance.
and what I like like communicating, because a lot of people are introverts or they struggle
Mm.
and you know, struggle to communicate, or they're embarrassed, or they might think that their other half is going to think they're a complete weirdo.
Correct.
For the
Yeah.
thought, and they might have been there for years without being able to communicate within their relationship.
Yeah.
What tips would you give people to, you know, if you've got an idea and you've got these thoughts and you're probably thinking about it even more, and maybe your crazy dreams are coming up with it even more, of actually being able to pushing yourself off the cliff to actually, you know,
To
communicate.
actually
Yeah,
verbalize it. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, first of all, it takes so much courage to do that. So anybody who's like ready to jump and actually verbalize that they have a sexual desire to their partner, first of all, kudos to you, right?
hmm
Um, I would say that, you know, there's a lot of ways to go about this. Okay,
Yeah,
let's talk about it.
that's fine.
So
Working
there's
like a pig
a lot
here.
of ways
Go.
that someone can do this. Is,
Yeah.
first of all, you could say, like, maybe they've already watched porn together. Maybe that's something they've done together as a couple. Well, if you've already watched porn together, but you have like an idea that you'd like to do like a DP, like a double penetration kind of thing, right? But you've never said that to your partner. You could say, like, want to watch some new porn? And you can like bring up the subject of what the thing is you want to do on the porn and
Yeah.
say, like, you know, what do you think? Do you think that's hot?
Yeah.
And you can like bring up the activity via watching it in porn together.
Yeah, I'm watching their
Now,
reaction.
the only thing I would caution about that is that porn is entertainment and porn is fun, and but porn is not like real sex, and we all know porn is real smooth and cute looking, and sex is not always smooth and cute
Yeah, and your
looking,
bit,
right?
normal bits don't normally look like that, let's be honest. And
Right,
those noises
exactly.
don't tend to come out of your mouth the whole time. So yeah.
Right. And also, like, all of those scenes, like, Pete, the actors in the porn are prepped and they're like
Yeah.
ready for a lot of that stuff. So, you know, you could bring it up in that way. I also think that, like, and this definitely is something that could be kind of fun and exciting, is you could write like 3 or 5 ideas of like things you'd like to do, right? Each one of you, right? So say we're just talking about a partnership with 2 people in it, right? Um, and you could say a fantasy you've had or something you want to do, or, oh, I'd like to integrate, you know, I want to use a vibrator while you fuck me, right? Like this sort of thing, right? And put them down on little slips of paper and put them in a hat and be
Yeah.
like, okay, we have agreed that we trust each other, right? And we're going to pull this little slip out of the hat. And as long as the 2 people can consent that they're like excited about that and they are interested in doing that, then that's your plan.
Yeah,
Like,
do you know what? We did that with the kid. I mean, done it with the kids with a jar and put in every day they write in what they want to do. What they want to do, their dream thing to do when we come out of lockdown. So just turn it into an adult one.
yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Or even make it like kind of like you know, I don't know if it's called the same in the UK, but there's a game in America called Clue, which is like a mystery game.
Yeah,
Um
I think, yeah. Is it a murder one?
you might, yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
like Dr. blah 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 in the
Yeah,
study
it's
with a
Cluedo. We've got it's Cluedo.
candlestick, right? Like, yeah. So you could also do like you could like say, like, you know what, we haven't fucked on the couch, like we just got a new couch, like we never fucked on our couch. So you could like put like place, object, action, and like you could
Nice.
like put some different ideas and you like mix and match, and like it's a make your own
Yeah.
adventure, you know, something like that. That could be fun. I don't know.
Nice. We're going back to porn because you do the workshops that span everything and you lecture as well. You do a lot of lecturing
Yes.
universities and you know young people are watching a ridiculous amount of porn and you're talking really young people. You know
Yeah.
who a lot have access to. You know my 5-year-old has started playing a bit of games with mates. You know you have to use FaceTime and an iPad and I'm like you're 5. You know
Yeah.
it's a slippery slope in being on YouTube, kids YouTube to then YouPorn.
Right.
You know, in
Right.
the space of 2 buttons and 10 seconds, you could
Right.
go from naught to. And so, do you think on that porn front with young people, there are positives and negatives, but sort of what's your take on it and like advice on the whole porn side of things?
Yeah. Personally, I enjoy porn. I think porn can be really hot. I think the problem lies where people believe that, or
It's
where
real.
have the preconceived notion that this is really what sex looks like. No, porn is entertainment. Porn is fun, right? Porn is fantasy, and fantasy and fun and entertainment are in very important parts of our lives, and can be huge additions to our happiness, especially during a time where we're stuck in the house, right? But there's different types of porn, and there's some porn that just simply will make some people uncomfortable. There's porn that makes me uncomfortable, and I'm a sex educator.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
not a lot makes me uncomfortable. But so I think porn absolutely has amazing benefits. I think when people make sure that they frame it as entertainment and as fun, instead of as like, this is what sex looks like, or this is what our sex should look like. Because we know that, like, a lot of what goes on in porn does not actually feel that awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't actually feel that great, So I think people need to look at it for what it is. Also, I think if you can buy porn from ethical sources, if you can afford to, not everybody can afford to buy their porn, but if you can buy your porn, that's great. There's lots of amazing ethical pornographers who make sure that the actors and actresses are like having a good time and feel good and are getting paid well and being treated well. But yeah, I mean, porn is a blast. Like, have a good time with it, but just recognize that it's not sex education, and it's not how real sex really is.
Do you think that's important then, from like a grassroots level, that it isn't in sex ed, but the concept of porn should be in sex ed, so that kids know the difference and know it's entertainment, and don't just basically stumble across it and then no one ever says to them it's not real.
Exactly. Yeah. And because, by the way, people with vulvas generally don't like to be fingered like this, like a crazy jackhammer. That's just a little tip.
No, 18%, only 18% of women actually, come through penetrative sex, don't they? So there's that there's that as well. That should be in sex ed as a given, not like actually just shagging, straight shag. Man, woman, penis that's going to pleasure the female. It's like
no, exactly. And and to your point about sex ed, absolutely, I believe that that porn literacy, which is, porn literacy should absolutely be included in sex ed when it's age appropriate, obviously. What you would teach to a 8-year-old about their body is not the same thing as what you teach to a 12 or a 14-year-old or a 18-year-old. So obviously age appropriate, that matters, right? But younger kids are getting exposed to porn. Like you said, it's very easy for them to be exposed to porn. And I think it's really great if their teachers or parents or other trusted adults can talk to them about porn in a way that is non-shaming, both non-shaming to them, right, as someone who's watched it, but also non-shaming to the whole general industry of sex work and porn. So because that in and of itself shames sex on a whole, and shaming sex is exactly what gets us into all the trouble.
It is, and putting like funny secret words for your vag when you're little, as if it's this kind of secret dirty place. It's sort of, no wonder, it's then in us as women that, it's kind of, this sort of secret that you shouldn't go there and shouldn't be used. And if you do, then it's, dirty.
There's so much ill-advised sex ed that, like, compares people with vulvas, having sex to having their flowers smashed, right? Or something like that. And you're like, or being like a piece of used up chewing gum. And you're like, no. Like, by the way, And that, by the way, let's just talk about how that was set up by patriarchy. Because you're a mother, you know, quite large things can come out of the vaginal canal.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
So, like,
exactly.
I'm sorry, but like a dick is not stretching out a pussy, right?
Yeah, you're not smashing a vagina with your penis.
Right. It's just not how it works. I know that they would love to think that they like alter the very existence that you live by like fucking you with a toy or their dick or something, but no, that's not how it works for the vulva having people. No.
And is that and the same as that you mentioned earlier, the virginity? That, you know, that whole he took my virginity. You know, that again is sort of as if it's this thing that, you know, is to be taken.
But it's funny how we don't talk about it so much for more male identified folks, right? Like when they talk about taking virginity, very much the conversation is often based towards femme identified or female identified folks, right?
Yeah.
It's whereas on the other side, if it's more male identified folks, right? It's a shameful thing to be a virgin, right? To not, well, like I say, to not have had your sexual debut, right? Yeah. So
not entered stage left.
To not have had your sexual debut. So yeah, like if a guy hasn't had sex yet, right, then there's like something wrong with him. He's a nerd or he's behind the times, you know, slow bloomer, what all this stuff. And then, you know, and this is speaking in binaries, but yeah, when it's related to a femme identified or female identified person, it's like, well, oh, you're just a hoe bag, you know, like, and now you're ruined, like, because you've, you know, had sex with this many people, right? Like,
yeah, there's a huge shaming, and it's still there. And I mean, as much as yes, it's got better, yes, it's changed, and you know, I've seen loads. KK's been going like 15 years, and it's amazingly better now than it was. But there still is that massive slut shaming culture, and and we get a lot of women who come and say they can't talk to their friends. They don't feel like they can talk to their friends about these thoughts they're having or wanting to explore. And so what advice and tips would you give people? And now, you know, and now in lockdown, there's probably people thinking, and women in particular, who might have never said anything before and sort of suppressed it, who've gone, fuck it. We've got one life. When we get out of here, this is what I want to do.
I might fucking die. Like,
exactly, I am out there and I'm going to live my life now. And
oh my God, slut it the fuck up.
Yeah.
Slut it up.
So what advice and tips would you give for people wanting to now start exploring where to live? Yeah.
Well, first of all, I think when you decide to do with your body what you want to do with your body, right? First of all, that's a badass action of like a revolt and revolution. So just consider the fact that you're being revolutionary when you just decide to do what you'd like to do with your body, and when you're gonna decide to just explore your own pleasure, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a big one on the slut it up kind of campaign, right? But how to go about that? I mean, that's a much more complicated question, because our cultural and perhaps spiritual or religious backgrounds are very deeply rooted, and they can really hinder people exploring their sexuality. But, you know, we try to find safe or safer spaces like Killing Kittens, you know, or some of the workshops that they do. You know, maybe you don't jump into an orgy right away, right? Like, maybe you don't jump into a play party right away. Maybe you go to some workshops, right? Or some social mixers or things like that, like the event that you held in New York, the panel.
And the communities, not just KK, there's so many LGBT, like sex positive communities there, and online at the moment, when in lockdown going nowhere, it's probably the perfect time to have a look and see see what's out there and which ones fit. Yeah.
And to your point, that's exactly it, right? To your point, we're in lockdown right now. What a better time than to explore your options when people are doing all these virtual meetings, right? These virtual parties, these virtual shows and events, and sort of see what you're into, and take some time to consider what you're into. Our sex lives, even our sexual orientations, can change over the lifespan. So, for a long time, I was only with dudes. Now I know I'm super gay.
Now you're free.
And like, I'm super damn gay. And, I didn't really know that. Like, but that's okay, because, you have time to explore things, right? And, I think not rushing yourself is also important, because sometimes I think there can also be, because of the cultural and religious, and sometimes just our family values background, like what we grew up with, can really send some deep messages. And there can be some sort of like after effects of exploring something and trying something, and then all of a sudden there's like a flood of like guilt or disgust. Guilt or disgust afterwards, because of the deep social programming we've had. And so, I think exploring things slowly, and then also like reminding yourself that like you inherently have a right to pleasure as a human being.
We're animals, aren't we?
Yeah. And like, honestly, I'm a spiritual person. I'm not a religious person, but we wouldn't have been made to experience pleasure if we weren't like supposed to
do it. Exactly. Let's be honest, the clitoris.
I'm just saying, like, for all the people who like are deeply embedded in a very religious background, they always say God does not make mistakes, right? So
I know, the bits are perfectly formed for pleasure, the female bit. We've got loads of on buttons, you know what I mean? He wouldn't have given us so many on buttons.
Exactly. And he, and he or she or it, right? Whatever God is, right? Whatever you call the higher power, if you believe in one, whatever, it's your choice, right? We wouldn't, people with vulvas, we wouldn't have been given this amazing thing of the clitoris, which has no purpose other than pleasure.
If it wasn't meant
to be used, right? Like, so I feel particularly blessed to be a person with a clitoris, because I'm like, hell yes. Like,
I know. It's an amazing.
Yeah.
And what do you think, like, finally, because we could talk for hours and hours and hours and just bore everyone, on going forward, when we come out of this crazy time, do you see any big shifts in the way sexuality is, or just the way, not sexuality, but more how we go about our sex lives, and the being out there and the swipe, let's go and have 3 drinks and in 20 minutes we're in bed with someone we've only just met on Tinder, and all, that with the world as it has been, and very full on in your face sex instantly. Do you think, can you see anything changing when we come out, or we'll just
I'm sorry, what was the last part of your question?
Or we'll just be back at it as if nothing had happened?
I think, okay, and here's like the data nerd part of me, like the scientist, sexologist part of me, right? Is that with any data set of humans, right, and human behavior, sex is such an incredible driving force with the human animal, right? And so, there will be some people that will still do the thing that they do, right? The swiping, the let's get a drink, and then like jump into bed with somebody, right? And hey, you all take your own calculated risks. And I hope that people will, of course, continue their safer sex practices, right? Barrier methods, taking PrEP, all of these things that I get very serious about as an educator. but you know, there will also be people that just genuinely will shift the way that they approach dating and relationships. And I think that there is actually going to be a large shift towards dating and sex, especially mostly sex when we're initiating sex with new partners. Obviously, sex with partners that we've already been with, especially if we've been with them during quarantine or before quarantine, you know, that might stay much the same. But, you know, for us single folks back out in the game, right?
Yeah.
You know, I can't say that I'm going to jump into bed with just anybody, right? But also, I don't think I'm going to require a COVID test, you know, like.
Yeah, because people are
like,
talking about having COVID on your dating app, you know, on the dating app as a kind of, have you tested COVID positive? I'm like, I don't think it's going to end up that extreme.
Well, it's funny because actually I just got interviewed about that. And I said, well, maybe that'll be a thing that people do because, you know, there was a time where people never even would talk about STI statuses on dating apps, and now they do, right? So depending upon how long this virus affects us before we have, you know, hopefully a vaccine, you know, yeah, it might be a thing. But I mean, I can't imagine necessarily going on a date and being like, I need to see your COVID test results first.
Or your
before
wristband.
you stick your head between my legs, you know? I'd be like, get your tongue down there, you know? But, so, you know, I think people will take calculated risks, but I do think that I think it'll slow some people's roll for sure. For sure.
Cool. But we'll see. Do you know what? We'll catch. So when we can get back to New York, we'll have you on the next panel and let's see. Yeah, it'll be cool. So just a final throwaway. Before we say bye bye. If your 20-year-old self was sat in front of you now, what would you say to her, knowing how you've lived so far? And yeah, what one thing would you just say?
Oh my God, what would I say to her? Ooh. Oh my God, that's a great question. Ooh. I would, you know what? I think I would say to my 20-year-old self, you're going to be so much more badass than you ever thought.
Yeah, and you're going to hate penises.
I would just say, you are going to be so much more of a badass than you imagine. Because I certainly didn't think when I was 20 that I was going to become a wrestler or a dominatrix or a sex educator. You know, or do any of the wild ass things that I've done in my life. And I hope that I continue to be a wild ass bitch, like way into my old age. As long as I get to stay on the planet, I hope I'll stay and be a wild ass bitch.
Nice. And just use that body while it's tight and firm.
Oh, you know what? My body's not even tight and firm, and I'm still going for it. You know, there's so many beautiful bodies, you know?
Cool. Yeah. Well, listen, Domina, that was awesome. So thank you. Yeah, it was lovely seeing you. Yeah, and I'll see you on the other side when we're out again. See you soon.
For sure. It was good to see you. I'm glad your family seems safe and healthy and everything.
They're all good and they're feral and they've just, you know, they've turned into Lord of the Flies to kill the kids, to be honest. So I think I'm going to struggle to get clothes on them when they go back to school. But
oh my God. You know, well, good luck to you.
Cool. See you later.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks everyone. And she's awesome, isn't she? She could just sit here and just talk without me being involved. Love her. Thanks for coming on, and we'll be back next Wednesday. So fire any questions over, and we will see you then. See you later. Bye. I just got to turn it off somehow.